Any designers here? Raise your hand. What are the remaining? Are you all backend programmers?
Wannabe designers.
Awesome. So everybody can write HTML. Everybody have seen code, right? So you all have your favorite IDEs, editors. So I don't have to worry about that. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, my name is Brajeshwar. I usually tweet at Brajeshwar. This is my website. This link usually goes to the companion website of this particular workshop. It is done exactly how I would have done a particular, simple, straightforward website and deployed directly everything from my own IDE or a console right from my computer. And I'm going to go through that. Hopefully, before that, I will go through simpler stuff, including SASS, Compass, and then go to a little more advanced stuff like using Yeoman to scaffold a particular project and be part of the whole production team so that you can write your HTML and CSS and then push it out as a production-ready code. All right. So that's the first of my slide, and that's it. No more slides. We will. So the Wi-Fi is working for everybody now.
Yes. What about the power supply?
Power is no. This one is working.
Is it that one?
Hey, that one is working.
Power is not.
That is working.
This one is working? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm plugging in the
Let's do a quick gauze, right? So when you write HTML and CSS, how do you write HTML and CSS? Okay, let's say, how do you write CSS? Plain CSS. SASS.
Yes.
Less. Okay. Stylus? You just say that because you know one, or you actually write it? Have you heard of top code? Top code. Adobe's top code. So I don't need introduction on SASS and Compass. Anybody who have not heard of SASS or less or any preprocessors and still writing raw CSS. Okay, this guarantees quite a bit of a small introduction, or a very short introduction. CSS is kind of like a very, very unforgiving or a very simple way of styling your web pages. You can do a lot more stuff with it, but when things go down the road, when things become complex, when you start writing it, everything seems to go haywire. Where you started writing a particular color hex code, after some time you forgot where it is. Or if one of my friends has written it, I'm not sure what he has written it. It's impossible. In the programmer's world, all the developers have enjoyed things like variables, functions and classes and all those stuff. We do not have any of those in CSS. So CSS is very raw on its own, and I think it is supposed to serve that way. But we want to do things better, easier, and we want to do things that we can repeat, right, and apply that more easily. So CSS preprocessors like SASS, less, or Stylus is one of those that helps you write CSS in an easier way. So you got internet access now, right? No. Anybody went to this as a pre-exercise that you were sent an email to come prepared with this?
The example wasn't there.
I put it yes. Anyway, so have you downloaded all of this? Are you ready with Ruby? Does it work on your computer? It works. Ruby works. Node.js. We're not going to do any Node.js and the complex stuff. We're going to use some of the modules that they already have. We're going to use it as our tool. So the thing is, as designers, we want to steal some of the cool stuff that those developers do and leverage that and make it our own, and so that we can be part of the whole team in a better way. So your developers or other people will start respecting you, and you will also find it easier to integrate into the environment in a much easier way. Just let me know when the Wi-Fi starts working so we can download it. It's working now. Can you please, do you know? Okay. Yeah, here is the short link so that it will be easier for you. please go there. The download is only about MB of file. From there, I would want you to start writing on it. So just go there, scroll till the bottom, and download.
Just read it out for us, we can't see it.
How do I do? Okay, it's the shortcut for Google, GO.gl, big E, 8, 1, C, Y, big N. Are you able to go to this website? So you see this website right now? So, while we wait, let's do another question. In a team of designers and developers, how do the workflow usually happen? See, today we're talking about designer being part of that workflow. So, currently, what is the frustration or some of the thing that you really hate about working in a team with a bunch of designers, maybe a bunch of developers? So, what is the one thing that really stops you from working smoothly?
Don't talk the same language.
When you say don't talk the same language, do you mean, say, a designer will start saying, hey, I want that curvish corner, and that developer doesn't really understand? Okay. How do the designers or the developers say when they come? So you mean to say the developers do the HTML, CSS also?
No. The developer would want everything to be given, the CSS.
Everything to be given, right? So that's another thing that's very interesting. Many designers till today continue to believe that they can just finish off with a Photoshop and be handed over so that the developer would slicing it. Now the developer will start swearing it, but that's his job, so he'll start doing it and eventually come back with HTML, CSS design that the designer will start hating it. So I'll say, I did that, why didn't you do it? This is the same font that was in my computer, it's Helvetica 16 point something, and why can't you just do it? And the developer will say, I did that. This is exactly Helvetica 16 point, and it's not happening. It's not my fault. So I think it is now time that designers themselves are held responsible or be confident enough to come up and at least write the HTML, CSS that you can integrate with the whole environment. Let the developers continue to do the JavaScript as a front-end guy and the back-end programming that they like, right? So whenever I refer about designers, they are designers who are writing HTML, CSS. And hopefully, when the Wi-Fi comes, we can start working on it so that as designers, we will start using those tools and make our workflow better. So you said that you have done SASS Compass, right? Right now, if you're told that SASS and Compass is going to be removed or less is going to be removed totally, you're going to write CSS, raw CSS, will you go back? How difficult do you think it will be? Or what kind of advantage have you taken out of SASS?
Mostly reusable too. Yes. Like any quick process, doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, we try to use them only for the reusability and making the clean code.
Mm-hmm. When you say clean code, what do you mean by clean code? You can still write clean code in CSS.
More readable, commented document, well documented.
You can still comment in CSS.
You can reuse code.
So it's like modular.
Define sort of functions. I don't know what it's called in SASS speak, but you can use
Mixing,
variables.
like mixing.
Yes.
Inherit, yeah,
You
nesting.
can compute values depending on one base value that you use.
Yeah, that's awesome, right?
Divide into files and import, which is in a much more elegant way.
Yeah, it's cool, right? Now I can define a color for a particular, say, a primary color. I can start lightening it, do a hue and saturation. I can darken it, keep doing all those things. And if I change one single color at a particular point of place, it goes everywhere, right? So you don't have to worry about it. Those kind of cool things. You can even write functions. So you can just like how the developers and backend programmers write functions, but not that complex. You can write functions in such a way that if you fire this with a particular parameter, like say if border radius is this, then give me this much amount of height or this much amount of width and things like that. In fact, the idea of grids and column that you see today in Bootstrap, Foundation, and all those are made more easier for you to modify and change because of preprocessors like SASS less. Right? For instance, you can simply say instead of 12 columns, I want only 6 columns, and let me just define my design based on that. You can simply change one variable and change everywhere because of the calculation already done for you. You don't have to redo it every time. Not just that, you can change the gutter size, you can change the width and the width of a particular column and things like that. So it also even helps you more with responsive designs also. I think you have heard of responsive design a lot these days, in fact. So with preprocessors, you can define parameters in such a way that because of this particular width or screen size that a particular browser is in your mobile phones or on your devices, you can have the same grid formula and recalibrate so that it will be the layout that you want. Maybe collapse everything in a smaller one, maybe twice in the case of a tablet, and in the case of a desktop browser, have multiples of whatever you want. Okay, we will also, as SASS, if you're doing SASS, we'll also let the people who write less, you can continue to write in less for today's workshop. It's perfectly cool. Even better, we'll have a mix of everything, and it'll be easier to figure out what works better, where it can help. I have been writing more of SASS, so the exercise will go into SASS, and I'll talk more about SASS, but if you ask me any questions in less, I might be able to revert back. Compass. Compass is like, if SASS is a Batman, Compass is like Robin. So Compass is a complementary set of classes, mixins, functions, everything done for you in SASS, so that you can use Compass to, have a preset framework of classes and functions, so you can just pick and choose which one to use. For instance, border radius. When you want to define a border radius for a particular box or a particular container, right? What you do is you have to define it for normal border radius, then Moz, Mozilla, WebKit, and things like that, right? Eventually, in future, browsers are going to go away with that vendor-specific things, and they're going to evolve. But so far, you still need to support quite a range of browser-specific codes. Compass readily helps you with that, because it figures out in Compass that if you said, let's say, I want to support all the versions of Mozilla Firefox, you can still support that. You can even define which versions of IE do I want to support. So when you do things like clearing, one of the very common things in CSS, clearing, right? Clearing floats. When you clear a float, in the case of earlier IE, like IE6, IE7, you have to have those hack. You remember the star hack and all those? Clear fix, yeah, star hack. If you haven't heard of star hack, star hack goes way back to IE6. So it still needs to do some sort of a small height is equal to 1 pixel inserted. Otherwise, it does not understand the clearing and collapse. So with Compass, you can say, I want to support IE6 also. Then when it punch out the CSS, or when you compile the CSS, it will write that version for your IE6 and IE7. Otherwise, you can skip that. So Compass does that for you. You can manually write it in SASS yourself. Yeah. All right, SASS and Compass. Before going ahead, I really want to do that first one, just SASS and Compass, and write some examples for the workshop. Wi-Fi not yet?
Yes, there.
Is there, right? Okay, we can start. Anyway, let me finish with just an introduction of what we will be doing further on. In the workflow management, Yeoman, have you heard of Yeoman? Cool. Yeoman is one of those scaffolding tools, script, whatever, which allows you to initiate a project with a bunch of parameters that you can define. And there are lots of generators. Generators are like plugins, or so to say predefined frameworks and templates for you so that you can use them. Yeoman is a plain scaffolder that can use all of these available generators to start initiating your first framework of your project. It can be Ruby on Rails, AngularJS, it can be a WordPress theme template that you want to run, You can use Yeoman to do that. Yeoman usually goes very well with Grunt and Bower. Bower is like the component management, whereas Grunt is the task manager. So what about Grunt? Everybody have used, heard Grunt? Yeah. Yeah, it's a task runner. When you say a task runner, when we say it's like when I talk about workflow, right? When I say workflow meaning I write HTML CSS today in SASS. I want that to be compiled into CSS, right? And at the end of the day, when it is ready to be produced into the production server or staging server, I want my CSS to be compressed, minified, comments removed, and all of those, because I don't need that. My server doesn't need to understand and doesn't need to read the comments, right? The comments are for us, for the developers and designers to read. I want that to be done. If I'm writing JavaScript also, I want the JavaScript to be amplified, magnified, and compressed. So I can ask Grunt to do it for me every time. So I don't have to do this. I don't have to use a other tool, drag and drop and things like that. I can just run a particular task, set it up once, and Grunt will do it in either in a sequential manner or in some sort of a process that does it automatically for me, one after the other. For instance, I can say, hey, minify all of my CSS, remove all the comments, the JavaScript also, the next run. Second, also start compressing this HTML file. And then if I have used images, can you please use, say, PNG optimization, JPEG trend, things, all of those modules, whatever modules you want to use, and then, optimize those images. Once everything is done, can you please push it to the staging server so that our developers don't even need to touch all of those to do the hard work of figuring out if it is compressed, is it ready for production. So when a designer or a front-end guy finishes the work, you are already finishing a production-ready code. You are a superhero already. Otherwise, what I have heard or what I have interacted with even bigger companies, small companies, big companies, is that the problem is these designers do this HTML and CSS. They zip it up, send in an email. And the developer copies it, insert it back and forth, and then does the magic thing, right? The developer hits the designer now. The designer also hits the developer because nothing is coming in between. It's not working in tandem, right? The developers and designers can typically work together but still have a segregated workflow where I'm doing my design. I don't really care what you write in the backend, but I'm not going to screw up what you're doing. At the same time, the developer is going to feel that if the designer is really giving me all of this in a finished product, I don't have to worry about how it looks like, how it's going to be displayed to a browser. Everything will simply just work, and I'm going to just worry about my backend logic, algorithms, functions, and things like that, right? So that would be the, I don't know how to call it, the awesome kind of a workflow, right? Goes from a creative director doing all the sketches, coming back, the designer coming back with a bunch of shit, and I'm ready to work on it, and start writing on your ID, start designing in code, right? And then goes back with and maybe spend some time just only with this Yeoman, Grunt, Bower, figuring out what are the components I need for my design to work. I'm not even concerned about what's the backend, right? Once I'm ready to integrate with the backend part of it, I talk to the developers, and developers say, hey, this is where I come in. This is your Python Django or Ruby on Rails. Let's connect. And then I remove all of my standalone working mechanism and I integrate with them. Then I continue the whole thing, right? I can do the minification, the optimization, everything with Grunt. Developers happy, designers happy. The designer respects the developer now because that developer is not coming back to the designer saying this is not working, what kind of design you're doing. So he respects the designer because the designer is now able to give you, using some simple tools. You don't even have to know JavaScript. You don't even have to know Node. You don't even have to know Ruby, right? So using those tools, you're leveraging those developer tools, you are now part of a team that you play a very vital role. In fact, your salary will also increase. Yeah. Yeah, seriously, I'll give you a bad. You're a designer, you even write HTML and CSS, but you have no clue about integrating with your developer. You send code in zip file as an email, right? You do that. After a month or so, you learn all of this and integrate with the designers and developers. Walk up to your boss and say, I need a salary raise. Let's see how it goes. Hey, so, have you downloaded the file? Cool. You see those?
Is this workflow compatible with all kind of
See, because they are totally separated on their own, it's compatible. For instance, people may use tomorrow, I think tomorrow or day after tomorrow. No, sorry. In the meta conference sessions, right? One guy is doing, instead of Grunt, there's something called as Golf.js. Have you tried Golf? Yeah, I heard it's simpler, much better. Even Brunch.io, competed with Grunt, and I heard they're simpler. And I haven't tried it myself, but I want to really try it. I heard they're simpler. Why I'm saying this is that they're all separate entirely on their own. It's like I'm working on a Windows computer and you're working on a Mac, and as if you're asking me, will we be able to produce a compatible website together? We will. So if you use your own,
Like
they're
the
okay.
development is happening the same source code.
Yeah.
Like if the workflow is not completely independent.
In fact, the workflows should not be independent at all. It should be autonomously. Designers is autonomous, but at the same time, it should integrate with the backend. Otherwise, it becomes very complex when you want to copy paste the code. How will you do it, right? Even your merge will fail all the time.
So I'm asking whether is this compatible with all the
This is compatible, and developers and designers are using pretty much the same workflow. Yeah. So recently, a developer friend of mine came back to me to do the design workflow, but he already has AngularJS, Grunt, Bower, and everything. So I just have to plug it. There was nothing incompatible about it. Maybe you'll need to change few of the things like Grunt files and few Bower component. I may need to do a bundle install. Bundle install is a Ruby component, right? So it's a Ruby module. So meaning if a developer start working on it, the designer start working on it separately. You are a developer working on it separately. He's the designer working on it separately. But at the end of the day, when you merge, right, or when you say, hey, let's start combining the code right now, we can start working. Let's say they have finished 10% of the design, ready to start implementing the backend and see the data flow and everything. So when you merge, maybe the designer may need to install a few more components that you use, and you may need to install a few more components that the designers use. You guys just need to do an update of the packages and install and work. In fact, hopefully we can try that with, we'll do it with the exercise today. Right now, so you have the files, right? So this is the file. What you get is that, right? Template files and everything. When you download it, you have this. Can you see this here? You can see this? Can you see the picture here?
You can change the color scheme there. Probably something more bright.
Or better yet, can you open this in your own IDE? Because you downloaded the file, right? You successfully all downloaded the file, unzip it. See, let's try to get some errors. I want to start working. Can you open that TMPL? It's a template file. If you want to save that so that you don't have to worry about writing on it, make a copy of it and start working on your own one. Copy, paste it, foobar, whatever. So let's start working on it. Can you open this? config.rg.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can see this, right? So this is a Compass configuration. Okay, before I go deeper, anybody like going bouncers? Because I want to really, everybody's okay, right? When I say SASS, Compass, and all those. Cool, right? This is brilliant. So you can see all this config, right? Let me run through this a little bit. So I say require Compass because I'm going to use Compass today. Compass is already installed. If you haven't, it's going to throw it error when we start watching it. Then we'll start installing it and we'll do it. So you will also learn that, hey, I need that. And how did I do it, right? And don't worry about writing things down. The whole thing, the whole workshop file, examples, everything, how this was done, how do you run this, even this whole website is pretty much available online on GitHub. You can download it, or if you have already access to it, you already have the file. This is open source. You play around. So one more thing here is that even if you skip, right? Today, if you can't complete something, I'm trying to make it in such a way that you can still have all of the file and play around with it. I have even thrown up my contact info. Email me anytime, contact me so I can help you. So let's start with the work. Have you made a copy out of your file that you downloaded? That would be the easiest way to do, right? Go into your file, open up in your favorite IDE, open this. So I said require compass, meaning I'm going to use this. Let's do a standalone project. It's easier right now. And this, what this says is that where am I firing it, right? It's my config is there, so I'm saying it starts here. CSS directories and stuff. Very, very self-explanatory. Let me try and change this. Which one would be better? Better? Clearer now? Oh, very tired after lunch, right? So these are a few things. So this is the output style. So while you write your SASS files, right? And during development, if I need to debug and want to see the CSS, I might want it to be expanded, meaning all those things will be properly written one after the other. Compress is like pretty much everything is one single line, right? So I can say, instead of the production mode, I can say development mode, so that it will give you the debug info. Debug info is like every line of CSS, every class that you write will be prepended by a location of where your file is. For instance, if you have a bunch of SASS files, it will tell me which SASS files or which SASS file is the problem. So you can go and fix that, right? So these are other functions that I can fire specifically for SASS, like bust the cache or not, cache busting it, so that your images, whenever you test it, your images doesn't get cached or your values doesn't get cached. You can see the fresh one that you just wrote. Yeah. So these are more SASS function that you can say precision number till 7 is, if you say a rounding number, right? You can have in your, I can write my grid column is 67.33287%, right? How many numbers of digits should come after the dot? 7, right? I can have all of this. Source map is something that's been included in Chrome for quite a while. So SASS is getting a lot of love from the community. You can use this to, debug more easier. Today we may not really be touching most of this. I just want to outline how it is done. All right. So everybody have a command prompt? Everybody? So we all go with a command prompt, or do you want to download one of the GUI tools? Windows guys, especially. You want a GUI, right? So go back to this page. I suggest you keep this page open. I have listed out all of the tools that you can use to compile your SASS and Compass. Choose one of them. I would say go for a open source like Scout. Download it. They're pretty small. Those are already comfortable on the command line. Can you go to the directory where your work is being, where you just downloaded? See, if you are using inside the TMPL folder, please go to TMPL. Otherwise, if you're copied somewhere else so that you can keep a copy, please go there and start running straight away Compass Watch. Anybody run? Any problem? Should have problems? It's working? What the hell? Seriously.
This is a template folder, right?
Yeah, it can be the template folder. It's working for him already.
It's working.
It's working for you. Sure. We need to ramp up this workshop, right? A little bit more complex. Cool. I thought people will get stuck here.
What is the issue there?
Campus Watch is already working.
Cool. Let's start.
Building something. Open your HTML. Here I have not written anything, right? Have you heard of Bootstrap? Wow, it's another brilliant thing, right? So we'll use Bootstrap today because we don't want to keep writing everything. We'll just learn how to change few of the variables in Bootstrap variable SASS. Those who are using less, please continue to use less if you want. If not, try SASS, that's perfectly cool. And we'll see how it goes. Let's make some mistake. Let's write our own mixins. Let's write our own a few functions. Let's do some placeholders. Let's extend few classes. Let's figure out when to write placeholders, when to write mixins. All right. Just let's start typing a hello or something like that.
Div.row, tabs and div class row. Div.row and press tab.
I just floated left and right. Left, right. Correct, right? Can you do that? Are you able to do it? Yeah, I'm using Bootstrap classes. I have not even introduced any CSS thingy yet.
What have you bundled with Bootstrap 3, right?
Bootstrap is already bundled for you when you download it. 3. 2 hate it, man. I think even yesterday everybody was talking about why they hate Bootstrap. I think you hate Bootstrap because of Bootstrap 2.
Exactly.
Bootstrap 3 is way better now. Yeah, I mean it's awesome, right? Okay, sure. So when it was Bootstrap 2, I used to hate it like hell, right? So I moved to Foundation because of that. In fact, I was the one porting the first of Bootstrap 2 even before it was released to SASS. And then I give up. What the hell is this? So I went to Foundation. Now I'm coming back to Bootstrap, and I will say equally, whichever you're using it, it's awesome. But here's a tip, right? Don't use everything because it's going to blot up everything. So the best way to use Bootstrap would be either use less or SASS, but have all of this, and then use your Bootstrap to include and comment on whatever you don't need. In fact, you should start with commenting everything and just include what you use. I'm pretty sure some people are lying. There's no error, nothing. I mean, that's impossible, right? Seriously?
I'm facing some issues.
Yeah, what's the problem? I wanted this to get interesting. It's not interesting. It's not.
Nothing to compile. If you are trying to start a new project, you have left off the.
So, are you inside the TMPL directory or your directory you're working?
I'm not sure. Like you Compass, right?
No. Before Compass, you extracted a GIF file. Go into that.
My Grunt is already installed. Compass, somewhere it's installed as Ruby.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't care about Compass right now.
Where I have to open it?
Go to your CD, go to your folder where your TMPL file is. Or do you know how to do the right click and open terminal here?
Yeah.
Do that.
So just command not found.
Command not found. Meaning that Compass is not installed, right? Sudo gem install Compass. Try ruby-v. Everybody gets something like this when you say ruby -v. You have something, right, that comes up with a version number?
Yeah.
So Ruby is working. You got Ruby working. So what happens if you do sucin-v? So SASS? SASS? SASS working for everybody?
No.
SASS is not working. What's it saying?
Command not found.
Okay, now let's do it, right?
How do you install?
Gem install SASS.
Sudo gem install SASS. Let me zoom. Shit, I'll go. Sudo gem install SASS. People on Windows, are you able to get Ruby working? RVM? Hopefully not. Because I'm not going to manage any Ruby models, nothing like that. You're trying to install through that? Just install as a normal Ruby model that goes into your. Because you don't want to. You're going to use this in future possibly, hopefully. SASS install, whoever SASS install. Now can you do SASS V? It's taking time. Wi-Fi was supposed to be working. Please do not watch YouTube videos. All working, SASS working. Yeah, I'll SASS working for everybody? Yeah. Compass working for everybody? Compass dash V against Compass is another Ruby model, so you can just do it. Same thing, install instead of SASS, just say Compass. Working already? Yeah, any problem, ask me questions, okay?
Where is the page? One question. So this is open it in the browser, right? You have to have any server.
There is no server involved here. There is a small server involved, but I will come back to that. What? There is no server running at all. Just double click on your HTML file to view it. All right. Working so far? Okay. Write something in HTML. Let's see. Start.
So when you say this thing is everything plus the entire row.
This one bigger? One more bigger? Bigger. Correct?
Select everything and select line reader.
You're able to compile your SASS into CSS already, right? You're seeing things like this, right? Okay. Will anybody ask me, please, why the browser refreshes on its own without me doing the refresh? What? You already know. So I'm not even using Grunt yet. This is only SASS and Compass so far.
Compass watch should not refresh.
Compass watch doesn't refresh. It only compiles and watches your SASS to CSS. You still have to do the refresh.
I didn't get this step. So how did you start this thing server?
This is not a server. Okay, I have a very small utility running it, but that's pretty much live reload. But anyway, let's not get into the complexity of live reload right now. We will do that in the next phase. Hopefully after tea or something like that, so that Let's build up the excitement now.
We missed in between. So after doing that left right, what was the next thing?
Oh, I just put a header so I can have a different color. Say I'm going to start changing colors and change it all at one go. I want you to do it. That's why we're going. So don't have to be pretty much like me. Just have a header, have something, H1, H2, things like that. Set a column in a container left, right, start maybe an input an image. Okay? And then let's have a footer and let's start changing colors. At least that will be the way we change variables and colors, right? So what I just did was I tried to change the color of the background for the header, but I encountered an error, right? Here it's not compiling anymore. It's saying that I cannot find the primary color because maybe perhaps the variable is not defined. So this is another cool thing about having Compass to watch over your SASS files is that if you have an error, it tells you. So I can go back and edit before I go even further and do anything about it. So let's go and change that. So let's see what kind of variables do we have in Bootstrap. Run primary. It's part of the download. So this was the primary color it changed, right? So I changed the variable, I changed go there in the variable and change it. Now I can change whatever I want. So I don't have, and if it is used multiple times, maybe in the buttons, maybe on another modal window, I'm using this again and again. So I can change it only in one location. That's the powerful part of the variable part of SASS.
Right now we are doing right-click open in browser. How are you opening the site?
This is in browser. Oh,
You have access to this file, right? So index.html.
yeah.
So
Okay. Here is a small, I think it's another Ruby model called Instant Web Server. Chuck that. Why do you drive this command in that particular folder? How do I make this? Yeah, so in the same folder that you have, run a very Python server. Most of you have either Linux or Mac, so I think it'll run automatically. Do you need to set a what? Compass Watch is when you install Compass. It has a bunch of commands available with it, so you can use like Compass Watch, Compass Build, Compass Compile. I'm writing the SASS files in the SASS underscore something. Do you want me to go a little bit back to the basics of how? Okay, so SASS is the file that you write, like PHP, .js. SASS is the file. Mhm. I still don't get you. Style.SCSS. Yes, correct. What is happening? Compass is watching. Are you sure your Compass you're watching in the same folder that you have? Do you have the config.rg?
Compass Watch, what are the things that it does other than watching for changes?
That's pretty much it. Actually, watches for changes and compiles it. Makes a CSS. Otherwise, because your HTML is only looking for a CSS, it's not even. It doesn't even know.
And where it generates the CSS?
Where you defined it. So in the config, but see, you can have as a parameter in watch, but you don't want to do that because then you'll be doing again and again. So I'm including only the style CSS. This HTML doesn't even know that if SASS exists. All compile SASS compilation working. I'm coming back. Right, working. Okay.
How is the link?
All right. Okay. Let's go a little bit.
Can you explain the folder structure? What are
Yeah. Now, let me explain the folder structure. You have already downloaded the files, right?
Yeah.
Can you please open up that folder area in Finder, Explorer? So, index.html, pretty straightforward HTML file. At the root of the particular project I'm working on, I have a file called config.rb. It's a Ruby file, Ruby config file. So Compass is going to look at that for a configuration and going to do its magic, right? So that config file is where I said, where should I write the CSS files that's being compiled? From where should I refer the image file if you're using it? Where would the phone files be? Where phones are using it. So you don't have to go on in row CSS, right? You have to have a URL and then give the relative or the absolute link for a particular image if you have to use it, right? If you're using Compass, you don't need to do that. For instance, your designer start using IMG as a folder, and everybody decides, hey, start using IMGES images, or simple I, or change in a folder, or change in a location. What will happen? You'll have to go change each and every point image reference, and it's a pain in the ass, right? So let's not even think of that. Let's think something like this. You're going to deploy on a very big server, and your static file is on S3. That means HTTP is something else. It's totally different from your development environment. So how do you do it? So you can have a production config with a totally different parameters for your images. When it is compiled for production, you can always have the image reference back to wherever you want. It can be on a comma, it can be on another CDN, right? That's the cool and beauty thing about having a separate config files for it. So far clear? You have the index file, you have the config file. Why do you have the config file? Cool. This side? Clear, right? Next step. So the images files is where, images folder is where you have your images. Clear on that? Scripts, where your JavaScript is, you can have .js or whatever you're comfortable with, or which your team decides on something for the folder naming convention. Follow that. And SCSS is where we will have all our SASS files, so that I can write the SASS files there, right? And the next is styles. Styles is where we generate the CSS. It can be either outside or wherever it's .css, wherever you want. So the only thing you have to take care is that so if you have changed any folder names or folder naming convention for your particular team, just change it here. And here's even a, if you see this line, I have given an example how you can compile by not even looking at a config file, because your config file is for your development, right? So when you produce or when you send it for production, I can say a different sort of parameter for your campus compile or campus walk, so that I can say, hey, compress it, no line comment, force it, track the time, everything like that. So that when you have the actual CSS for final production, it's a totally different thing than what you see during development. During development, a CSS file can be very big, have lots of comments so that you can all read, right? For the production, you don't need all of those. You can do this, do it with this particular line of command. So far, clear on the folder structure and why we have the config?
In index.html, you still are referencing the CSS as styles/style.css. So can you remove the styles there?
Because you just want to look at it?
No. Can you remove it now because you already specified that the CSS directory is...
Campus is for SCSS and CSS, right? It has nothing to do with HTML. Remember. So I'm just, this HTML is referencing to the CSS as if nothing happened. I'm just looking at the CSS generated after the campus and all the thing that happens at the back of your SASS and campus. So this is pretty much like somebody is writing the CSS for me. I'm just referencing it. Clear on that, right? Clear on the folder structure? Let's do a yes, man. Yes. And then clear on the config, why we're having all of this? Cool. So this is the HTML, plain HTML, references, style.css, where it is being generated, everything. See, we will even do how we can change the name of the image folder, so that we can see how it changes. Then will come up. If I forgot, just remind me. Folder structure clear, config clear. We start writing index HTML. We start writing this code. Everything is compiling, right?
One basic question about this. So have you generated this folder structure by your own, or any tools generated this?
No tool per se. This is like you have been working with it, so you like. I feel like I should be styles. It's much easier. CSS things like that. Sometimes if I'm working with, say, AngularJS guys, I would name my SCSS to be _.scss because this guy uses app and things like that. So I want underscore to be something that doesn't go back to the production server, things like that, right?
So this is how you are advising, like suppose you want to develop a new project.
I would not say an advice. I would say this is what I feel I'm comfortable after quite a bit of experience doing design and development, right? So I can show you a different example, or this folder. Let's go into it. This folder is the one that really generates the website that you just saw, right? The companion website for this workshop. It was done through this. It is scaffolded with Yeoman, Jekyll in the back, so that I don't want to write all this scripting code. Jekyll in the back, SASS file for the styles, and it being pushed directly from Grunt to GitHub. Right? So I have a different kind of a folder structure here. And I have to concentrate only on one thing called app. Inside this, things like includes, layout, plugins, these are the Jekyll style of way of doing it, right? And images doesn't have a underscore. Why? Because images and everything goes to the server. It's part of it. Underscore.scss, because that's my development SCSS files and doesn't need to go to the server. So those are the few things which you tend to agree on with your developer. And remember, when you come up with all of these frameworks or your own nitty-gritty things, the thing is, when you come work or when you move a different company or when you work with a different group, don't get totally fixated on what you know, right? You should be flexible enough to be part of that. some of the tools, or in fact all of the tools that we use, really helps in that. For instance, SASS, users realize that after designing a whole bunch of things, and the whole team is using, instead of IMG, they're using I as a folder. How do you change it? You'll panic, right? Say, I have to go back, change all the CSS. So how do you use your tools to do it in such a way that you're flexible and you're not complaining about the folder structure, you're not complaining even where people are writing the script? Then you become, as I said in the beginning, you become more respected by other people. You can understand them. You have lots of empathy for other people. That's what you should have. That's why we're talking about superheroes. So, so are we cool enough to go into the HTML part of it, start writing? Are we already writing, right? Anybody have done anything more advanced than this, like header, footer, sidebar, something like that? Anybody really writing code? Or? Yeah, so you can see things like this, right? You're able to do things like this, write a header, plus something on the left, plus something on the right, have a footer. And if you really want to know the classes that you need to use for Bootstrap, feel perfectly free to open up this and do something. Tea is already ready? No. 3:30. Sure. So leave this open on the side so that you can reference classes that you have to use, right? You want to use. So now let's try this. So everybody able to write something like this, like a footer with a navigation, ULLI, right? Header is not what? Okay. Let's fix this by. So you have a list like this, right? A list got some list like this. How do you make it into a navigation horizontal whole list? Let's make this list into a navigation link. Let's not even go so complex there.
Shift Control P. That's why.
So far, so good. See, till now we haven't written anything over custom styles or anything custom. Everything is just Bootstrap, which you're already familiar with. So we just put a line is the boy. So let's change it. So we have a footer now very clearly seen. Copyright, left and right. Let's put an image. So can you at least get to this so that we can do some custom style of our own?
Can you show the footer code?
Okay, so the code is, I just wrote a header, use the Bootstrap classes to set it out, and then have a container. You know all of this, right? I don't need to run through this. Left, right, in a footer. Once you're done, let me know. Let's play around with this too. So let's play a little bit with. Let's try some mixins. Let's try some extend class. Let's try a few SASS things, right?
Tell me how the SASS or the thing gets converted to styles internally. So you change the SASS, right?
Yeah.
So internally it gets converted to styles.css, right?
Yes.
It's happening every time, or?
See, whenever I do a save,
Okay.
so whenever I save the SASS files, Compass knows that SASS has already changed. So you don't want it doing while you're typing, right? Then it'll slow down. So whenever you save a SASS file, Compass knows that the change is there in the file, and then it compiles.
So that's the purpose you use Compass.
Yeah, that's one of the purpose. The other thing is they have lots of options. I'm going to use it something like border radius. So lots of things which I don't want to type the SASS, even the SASS files myself. So Compass really helps me do that. It has quite a lot of classes written for you, quite a lot of things done for you. Right. So let's look at. We'll even look at the CSS, the compiled CSS, so that we'll have an idea. But so far, I just want you guys to at least have some HTML with header, footer, sidebars, and content. Footer also is exactly the same as
Style.
Okay. The next module or the next version, the more cooler stuff, right? So far in the first half, where do you rate this particular workshop? Okay, raise hands for one. Well, this way. Raise hands for 3, 5, 7, 10. I need to do more homework, right? Alright, 7 is pretty good enough. I thought people would get stuck at Compass. Alright. Do we call people or are they gone? Shit. That reduces the whole thing to 1, right? So, there was one thing. For instance, while I was writing the code in the browser, when I come back, it was already loaded, right? It's called live reload. There are various ways of using live reload. You can have it as a browser extension and then watch a particular folder to see if any changes, then just refresh your browser. Or you can do that as part of your node module. Grunt can do it for you. So let's go into that one by one. First, okay, before this, I think email was sent out to you guys to look at the site, the requirement, everything before coming to the workshop. Anybody did actually read those and go to click on the link? Okay, good enough. Did you download the files already? Is it working on your machine like Node, Ruby and everything? Yes. Okay. Anybody Node still not working? So Node is done. So if no